Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In 1998, the serene town of Maplewood, nestled in the heart of the Midwest, was jolted awake by a harrowing discovery. Known for its picturesque landscapes and tightly knit community, the town had always prided itself on safety, a place where children played freely in the parks, and neighbors greeted each other with warm smiles. But that morning, as the sun climbed lazily over the horizon, a sinister shadow fell upon Maplewood. The municipal park, typically alive with laughter and the rustle of leaves, remained eerily quiet. A solitary dog walker, the only soul brave enough to venture out that early, stumbled upon a sight that would forever alter the course of his life. Just off the beaten path, concealed beneath a thick layer of fallen leaves, lay the lifeless body of a young woman. Her once vibrant clothes, now dulled by the elements, told a story of violence and desperation. Detectives arrived swiftly, their faces taut with the gravity of the situation. As they cordoned off the area, the air thick with tension, the first whispers of dread rippled through the community. Who was this woman? Why had her life been so brutally extinguished in a town where darkness was only a fleeting thought? The victim was identified as Emily Sullivan, a beloved member of the community known for her kindness and infectious laughter. A graduate student passionate about environmental science, Emily's future had been filled with promise and possibility. But now, with a homicide investigation unfolding, questions loomed large amidst the picturesque trees and whispering winds of Maplewood. In the days to come, as investigators peeled back the layers of Emily's life, they would unearth secrets that ran deep within the community, revealing that even the most serene facades can hide unspeakable truth. The victim. Emily Sullivan was more than just a name etched onto a coroner's report. She was a budding environmentalist, a devoted friend, and a familiar face to nearly everyone in Maplewood. Well, growing up in the town, she had always seemed to possess an innate ability to connect with nature and, conversely, with people. Her radiant smile illuminated the local cafe evenings, where she could often be found discussing her latest research with professors and students alike. Among her circle of friends, Emily was the glue that held them together. She organized weekend hikes, community cleanups, and fundraisers for local charities. Her passion for the environment wasn't solely academic. It resembled a personal mission to inspire those around her to cherish and protect the world they lived in. But beneath this vibrant exterior was a complex soul, wrestling with her own struggles. In her final months, Emily had exhibited signs of anxiety. Her aspirations weighed heavily on her shoulders. Friends noted the change. She appeared more withdrawn, distracted during conversations. In hindsight, whispers of her sleepless nights and fleeting smiles lingered, casting shadows over her spirited facade. Emily's family, deeply rooted in the community, mourned her loss with unspeakable heartache. Her mother recalled Sunday mornings filled with laughter over pancakes and syrup, while her father reminisced about long drives to national parks, where Emily would passionately point out the flora and fauna they encountered along the way. In the days following her death, her friends shared stories that revealed both the light and the struggles she carried. Each memory painted a fuller picture of Emily as someone who desired to make her mark but also felt the weight of the world's expectations. As details of her life unfolded, so too did the realization that her story was far from over. It was just beginning, etched now in the hearts of those who knew and loved her. The crime scene. The morning air was thick with tension as the forensic team arrived at the park, their bright orange vests stark against the fallen leaves that blanketed the ground. The scene was unsettling, a violent intrusion upon a place typically associated with serenity. Just beyond the tree line, a small gathering of uniformed officers kept curious onlookers at bay, while their colleagues documented every detail, determined to salvage the fragments of Emily Sullivan's last moment. As detectives stepped carefully around the body, they noted the position of Emily's limbs, twisted slightly, as if she had attempted to guard herself from an unseen attacker. Scattered around her were droplets of blood, a stark contrast to the earthy browns and yellows of the foliage. The air, laced with the faint scent of decay, served as a haunting reminder of the violence that had erupted in this unassuming park. Crime scene investigator Lena Hayes crouched down, meticulously cataloging the evidence. She could feel the weight of the investigation bearing down on her, each item a crucial piece in the tragic puzzle. Although Emily appeared to have put up a struggle, defensive wounds visible on her hand, Dane's focus had to remain on details that could tell the story behind the tragedy. Under nearby bushes, they found a small bracelet, likely torn from her wrist during a scuffle. It glinted in the light, resembling a whisper of the life she once led. As the sun climbed higher, detectives found themselves analyzing surroundings that had become suddenly sinister. Wayward footprints traced along the muddy path leading from the scene, and an abandoned bicycle leaned against a nearby tree, its owner nowhere in sight. In a town where crime felt like a distant narrative, the discovery of Emily's body marked a shift in perception of grim reality, replacing the comforting illusion of safety. The investigators exchanged glances, each understanding that they were not only unraveling a murder, but also unearthing the fragility of trust within the fabric of Maplewood. It was just the beginning of a long and arduous journey, where every clue could ultimately lead them to justice or darkness. The early investigation. The air was thick with uncertainty as the investigation began, instilling a palpable sense of dread in the once peaceful town of Maplewood. Detective Sam Hargrove, seasoned yet troubled by the brutality of Emily Sullivan's murder, coordinated the early stages of the inquiry, determined to uncover the truth without causing further anguish to a grieving community. Within hours, investigators were inundated with tips and rumors. Emily's friends quickly voiced their fears, sharing details about her recent changes in mood and a lingering sense that someone had been watching. Each conversation served to deepen the mystery and unease. Hargrove listened intently, piecing together their testimonies like fragments of a shattered mirror, reflecting Emily's life. A particularly striking lead came from Megan, one of Emily's closest friends, who recounted how Emily had confided in her about feeling threatened. Over lattes at their favorite cafe, Emily had mentioned a man she had encountered on multiple occasions while working late in the lobby, mysterious figure with a haunting stare. The slight tremor in Megan's voice echoed the fear that had gripped Emily, forcing Hargrove to jot down every detail with urgency. Meanwhile, the forensic team worked relentlessly, combing through the park in search of any overlooked evidence. They sealed the bracelet, as well as a notebook found nearby, containing fragments of Emily's research. Did she stumble upon something she shouldn't have? Or was it simply the product of a troubled mind? As the hours turned into days, Hargrove realized that they needed to not only focus on external suspects, but also look inward. exploring Emily's circle of friends and associates. Sometimes the cracks we fail to see in our own relationships harbor the deepest secret. The detective organized interviews with everyone who knew Emily, friends, classmates, and even faculty members, knowing that each conversation could either shed light on the darker corners of her life or lead them astray. In the heart of the investigation, Hargrove found himself haunted by the echoing laughter of a vibrant community, silenced by tragedy, and he steeled himself against the mounting pressure. The clock was ticking, and with each passing day, Emily's voice faded a little more. It was time to bring her story back to life before it vanished entirely. The dead ends. As the days stretched into weeks, the glimmer of hope that initially fueled the investigation began to dim. The quaint streets of Maplewood, now heavy with sorrow, felt less inviting with each turn. Detective Hargrove, once optimistic, found himself navigating a labyrinth of dead ends that left him frustrated and disheartened. Several promising leads had quickly gone cold. The man spotted by Emily in the lab seemed to vanish without a trace, and every attempt to track him down ended in frustration. Witness reports varied drastically. Some described a scruffy individual with dark hair, while others recalled a clean-cut figure, adding layers of confusion to an already intricate case. The more they searched, the more elusive their answers became. Hargrove and his team reviewed security footage from nearby establishments, hoping to catch a glimpse of Emily's last movements. Yet every frame revealed nothing but an unyielding emptiness, patrons sipping coffee, students milling about, and the evenings drifting into unremarkable anonymity. It was as if someone had scrubbed away all signs of her presence, leaving only echoes of laughter amidst the pounding heartache. The whiteboard in the precinct, once cluttered with connections and timelines, now appeared sparse, dotted with question marks and unsolved mysteries. Time was running out, and the fear of a cold case loomed heavy in the air. Hargrove's colleagues, though supportive, felt the anguish of tracked down leads that would only circle back to familiar face, each one layered with memory, loss, and helplessness. Then came a cryptic tip that sent a ripple of hope through the team. An anonymous caller claimed to have seen Emily arguing with a man near the park the evening before her death. Yet, when they investigated, the witness hesitated, wavering under pressure, claiming they had been mistaken. Hours of conversations resulted in a promising trail that ultimately flickered out like a momentary spark in darkness. With every lead fizzling, Hargrove faced the crushing reality of the case. The absence of answers weighed on him. The community was left longing for reassurance and justice, and he knew that the longer they waited, the harder it would be to uncover the truth. Doubt gnawed at him, but as he reviewed Emily's life anew, he remained resolute. Somewhere, hidden behind the occluded paths, lay a thread that could unravel the seams of this tragedy. He just had to find it before time slipped away entirely. A break in the case. As the crispness of winter settled over Maplewood, the weight of unresolved grief clung to the air like a thick fog. Detective Hargrove, weary from countless hours of investigation, found solace in routine sorting through old notes and re-examining every detail that could lead to a breakthrough. Then a small, unassuming envelope slipped through the precinct door, catching his attention like a flickering flame in the dark. Inside was a letter, handwritten and sealed, marked simply with Emily's name. Shh. The detective felt his pulse quicken as he unfolded the single sheet of paper, filled with neat cursive writing. The contents spoke of the impending changes in her life, the ambition she held, and a foreboding sensation that something ominous lay on the horizon. The letter referenced her environmental studies but ended abruptly, with a line that sent a chill down Hargrove's spine. "If you see me in distress, please remember what I told you." Hargrove carefully set the letter down, his mind racing. The phrase nagged at him, urging him to look deeper into Emily's relationships. Who was it addressed to? Who did she trust enough to confide in such troubling thoughts? After a hasty conversation with the team, they connected the dots, searching for any records of personal communication in Emily's academic life. An analysis of her emails revealed a pattern of uneasy correspondence with one particular classmate, Caleb Monroe. Their exchanges spoke of environmental projects, but there was an undercurrent of tension between ambition and jealousy, friendship and resentment. The back and forth seemingly escalated, leading Hargrove to suspect that Caleb might hold the key to unraveling Emily's final days. When they tracked him down for questioning, Caleb appeared shaken, his once confident demeanor replaced by a nervous stammer and darting eyes. Hargrove listened carefully as Caleb recounted their last interaction, revealing that an argument had broken out regarding their projected disagreement that spiraled out of control. As he spoke, a mix of defense and anxiety oozed from his tone, suggesting he was hiding something deeper. The detective sensed that this could be the break they had long awaited. Hargrove pressed further, reading between the lines of Caleb's responses, determined to expose any hidden truths. The momentum had shifted. They were no longer stumbling through the dark, but pushing persistently towards the light, confident that this time it would lead them one step closer to justice for Emily. The suspect. The faint echoes of Maplewood's bustling streets faded away as Detective Hargrove and his partner brought Caleb Monroe into the interrogation room, a room designed for revelations, yet thick with trepidation. The overhead lights buzzed softly, illuminating Caleb's tense face, his hands fidgeting nervously in his lap. Hargrove took a seat across the table, determined to coax out the truth lurking behind Caleb's uncertain facade. "Caleb," he began, his voice steady but firm, "we need to talk about Emily. Your last conversation with her is crucial. We know it got heated, but we need honesty every detail, you remember." Caleb's gaze flickered to the door, as if contemplating an escape, before settling back on Hargrove's piercing eyes. "I told you, it's just an argument." Emily was stressed about her project. She was always so intense about it. Hargrove leaned in slightly, his tone softening. It was more than just a disagreement to her, wasn't it? You two were competing for the same grant, right? There must have been moments that changed your relationship. Caleb's face paled, and for a fleeting moment, his bravado crumbled. "I never wanted to hurt her, Detective. It was just she wouldn't listen. I don't know what she was thinking, but she was overreacting." The detective pressed further, his voice low yet insistent. "You say that, but it doesn't fit."
Emily was passionate, not reckless. If she felt threatened, it might have been because of you. Did you confront her more than just that one time?
Caleb shifted uncomfortably, beads of sweat forming on his brow. "It's not like that. I cared about Emily. We were friends." "Friends?" Hargrove interjected, carefully observing every flicker of emotion across Caleb's face. "Then why the late-night messages? Why the disagreements? Why not just support her?" The tension in the room thickened, amplifying the weight of unspoken truths. Caleb finally broke, his voice cracking as he half-heartedly reasoned. "I didn't want her to fail. I just wanted to be recognized too." This admission hung in the air like a noose, tightening around his throat. As the interrogation continued, Hargrove could sense the shift in momentum. They were piercing through Caleb's defenses. The detective carefully constructed his questions around motive, the undercurrents of competition and jealousy now painfully evident. Under scrutiny, Caleb's facade began to fracture, revealing dark, festering emotions that might connect him to Emily's tragic fate. With each anxious breath, Hargrove sensed they were on the precipice of a confessional that could uncover the true nature of their relationship and perhaps finally lead to justice for Emily. The truth was close enough to taste, but would Caleb crack under the pressure or retreat into silence? The moments dragged on, and only time would tell. The trial. As winter relinquished its frosty grip on Maplewood, the atmosphere grew tenser within the walls of the local courthouse. The trial of Caleb Monroe was the talk of the town. Rumors circulated like wildfire, igniting passions and fears in equal measure. Hargrove could feel the weight of the community's anticipation pressing down on him as he prepared for a legal battle that would finally put Emily Sullivan's legacy into focus. The courtroom was packed, members of the community filling the seats as they sought justice for the vibrant young woman whose life had been unjustly snuffed out. At the center of it all sat Caleb, his once confident demeanor now diminished, overshadowed by the gravity of the charges against him. He was being tried for second-degree murder, a sharp contrast to the student, known for his bright future. Prosecution and defense presented their cases with fervor, each relying on a well-crafted narrative that sought to sway the jurors' hearts and minds. The state's attorney, driven and resolute, painted a portrait of jealousy turned toxic, showing how Caleb's competitiveness spiraled into a violent confrontation with Emily. He revealed the harrowing details of that fateful night. Her words had morphed into actions, culminating in a struggle that left Emily lifeless amidst the fallen leaves of the park. On the other side of the courtroom, the defense lawyer positioned Caleb as a misguided young man consumed by passion rather than malice. They argued that the encounter with Emily was nothing more than an unfortunate accident, a moment of panic gone awry. They pulled at the jurors' heartstrings, suggesting that Caleb's missteps came from a place of desperation rather than premeditated intent. During the trial, Emily's friends took the stand, sharing their fond memories while revealing the complexities of her relationship with Caleb. Their testimonies left an indelible mark, weaving a rich portrait of a passionate student striving to make a difference. As they wept for their friend, the jurors bore witness to the vibrant soul lost too soon, amplifying the weight of the verdict they would soon deliver. As the days wore on, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Hargrove remained vigilant, analyzing every reaction, every furtive glance as the evidence was presented. The chilling letter Emily had written, Caleb's messages laced with envy, and the implications that panic had pushed him toward violence. Each piece built a narrative that could sway the jurors' minds, either toward profound compassion or a tragic accident or devastating condemnation for calculated rape. Finally, the jury retreated to deliberate, the silence of anticipation thick enough to stifle a gasp. As hours stretched into an agonizing wait, Hargrove found himself reflecting on Emily's impact. The trial had been much more than seeking justice. It had become a movement, igniting conversations about mental health, ambition, and the pressures imposed by competition in academia. When the jury returned, the atmosphere was electric. As the verdict was read aloud, the courtroom held its collective breath. Would they find Caleb guilty? And would justice truly prevail for Emily Sullivan? The verdict would mark a turning point, reverberating through Maplewood long after the gavel fell. The aftermath. The courtroom reverberated with the echo of the jury's verdict as it settled heavily upon the shoulders of those present. A mixture of gasps, murmurs, and quiet sobs drowned out the judge's final proclamations as the reality of the decision. Whether guilty or not, seeped into the hearts and minds of friends, family, and the community alike. Caleb Monroe was found guilty of second-degree murder. As the weight of justice descended upon him, a visceral wave of emotion swept through the courtroom, a cacophony of relief for some, while others were enveloped in anguish. Hargrove observed as hurt and relief intertwined, the balance of loss hanging heavily in the air. In the weeks that followed, community forums and discussions emerged around the trial's outcome. Maplewood grappled with the implications of such violence occurring in their cherished town, igniting passionate conversations regarding mental health, educational pressures, and the hidden struggles underneath the surface of seemingly thriving students. The tragedy of Emily's death had given birth to a movement tone that aimed to confront the realities of ambition and the toll it takes on young individuals. Emily's parents found solace in the widespread support from their friends and community members. They acted swiftly to establish a scholarship in Emily's name, aimed at future environmentalists who exhibited not only academic aptitude, but also the resilience to overcome personal challenges. In Emily's honor, they created safe spaces for students to explore their mental well-being without the looming weight of stigma. Hargrove stood with them during the launch, sensing the optimism from their grief. It was a step toward change, born from unimaginable loss. But for Caleb, the aftermath was starkly different. As he faced sentencing, the gravity of guilt sat heavily upon him. Prison loomed, with whispers of his name intertwined in conversations that echoed through the community like a ghost. With time in confinement, he would confront the reality of his decisions, the weight of a life extinguished. Reflection would have to replace denial for Caleb, for every moment locked away carried the specter of Emily's silence and the vibrancy that had once filled the town. Yet Hargrove knew that the ripples from this case stretched far beyond the prison bars. Maplewood would never be the same. Families now locked their doors a little tighter. Children scanned their surroundings with wary eyes. And friends would carry the shadow of guilt and responsibility alongside their shared memories. The idyllic perception of safety had cracked, leaving behind a sobering reminder of how fragile life truly is. As spring began to bloom, Hargrove found himself wandering through the park where it had all begun. The trees, now blossoming with flowers, swayed in the gentle breeze, an unwilling testament to nature's resilience. In the span of a few months, the world around him had shifted drastically. Yet change was also an opportunity, a chance to ensure that Emily's story would be remembered not only for its heartbreak, but also as a catalyst for awareness and growth. In the quiet of the park, Hargrove made a silent vow to continue the conversations ignited by Emily's tragedy, believing fiercely that her legacy would push his community forward, even amid pain, reminding them to keep the dialogue alive, ensuring that no other young person would have to pay the same price for ambitions unfulfilled. Reflection. Months had passed since the trial concluded, Yet the haunting memory of Emily Sullivan lingered in the hearts of those she left behind. Detective Hargrove found himself often lost in thought, reflecting on the complexities of her life, the darkness that had enveloped her budding dreams, and the tragedy that had unfolded in the serene backdrop of Maplewood. He had seen the worst of humanity in his line of work, but cases like Emily's made him acutely aware of the fragile intersection between ambition and despair. Sitting at his desk, surrounded by the remnants of the investigation, Hargrove surveyed the evidence box containing Emily's personal belongings, the bracelet, the letter, and her research no-teach item, a fragment of a life taken too soon. But he no longer viewed them solely as evidence of a crime. They had transformed into symbols of resilience and hope. They called to him, imploring him not to let this story fade away, but to stand as a champion of the narratives left untold. Amidst the weight of grief, he sought to carry Emily's spirit forward, pledging to dedicate his efforts to advocating for mental health resources and awareness within academic institutions. He attended workshops, spoke at community meetings, and engaged with educators and parents alike, laying the groundwork for programs that addressed the pressure students faced. Fostering open dialogue became a mission, a promise to ensure that no other student fought silently through their struggles, reading their own despair in the shadows, feeling unseen and unheard. As Hargrove walked through the now flourishing park, children laughing and playing under the warmth of the sun-drenched sky, he felt a flicker of hope. Emily's voice, though silenced, lived on in the changes rippling through the community. With every conversation sparked, every parent advocating for mental well-being, Emily's legacy transcended the tragedy of her past. It became a guiding light, illuminating paths for others seeking support and understanding. The journey toward healing had just begun, one where mourning would intertwine with activism, transforming sorrow into strength. Hargrove knew that they owed it to Emily not only to remember her life, but to ensure that her story would create a lasting impact, fostering compassion in future generations. The ripple effects of one life claimed too soon could create a wave of change, resonating far beyond the borders of Maplewood.